The day my company went under, Sophia told me she was leaving. She said she was done with being poor. I watched the rigid line of her back as she walked away, a dull knife twisting in my chest. The next morning, my best friend, Leo, burst into my apartment hauling a heavy suitcase. His eyes were bloodshot. He told me it was every last cent he had, and that I had to use it to get back on my feet. With that money, I rebuilt my empire to 10 times its former glory in a single year. I became a legend in the business world, a comeback king surrounded by beautiful women. But I never touched any of them. A year to the day after it all fell apart, Leo got wasted and broke down, sobbing in my arms. He told me he was sorry. Sorry to me, and even sorrier to Sophia. He confessed that the money, all of it, had come from her. She'd sold her condo, her car, even the last heirloom her mother had given her. She was afraid my pride wouldn't let me take it from her, so she staged the whole brutal breakup. In that moment, my world didn't just crack, it shattered. Ethan, we need to break up. Sophia's voice was quiet, but the words landed like a sledgehammer to the heart. Outside, the Austin sky was a bruised, heavy gray, threatening a downpour that matched the storm inside me. On my desk, the freshly printed notice of Chapter 11 bankruptcy filing lay stark white against the dark wood, the official seal a splash of blood red that stung my eyes. I looked up, desperately searching her face for any hint of a joke. There was none. Her face, as lovely as ever, was a blank mask. Her eyes, the ones I loved to get lost in, the ones that always sparkle with life, were now flat and lifeless, like dusty windows on an abandoned house. What did you say? My throat was sandpaper. The voice that came out didn't sound like mine. I said, "We're done," she repeated, her tone colder, harder. "I'm tired of this. With you, there's no future. You used to be the golden boy, Ethan. Now what are you? A failure who can barely make rent. A failure." The word was a needle, finding the most vulnerable part of my soul. I stared at her, this woman who had been by my side since college. The one who'd been there when I started my company from nothing, who'd weathered every storm with me. I remembered when the company was just an idea, and we were crammed into a tiny studio apartment off Riverside, sharing a cheap pizza on the floor because we didn't have a table. She had laughed, her smile brighter than any five-star restaurant. "As long as I'm with you, Ethan," she'd said, "even cardboard tastes like filet mignon." I remember the day we landed our first $1 million seed investment. I'd spun her around in my arms, and she'd cried with joy against my chest. "We're finally going to make it, Ethan," she'd sobbed. Those moments were burned into my memory, her words still echoing in my ears. But now, she stood before me, delivering the cruelest lines in the calmest voice. My heart seized, the pain so sharp it stole my breath. I took a shaky breath, forcing down the lump in my throat, and managed a smile that felt more like a grimace. "Sophia, this is just temporary. The company just has a cash flow problem. Give me some time. I can fix this, I swear I can." "Time?" She cut me off, a bitter smirk twisting her lips. "How much more time do you want? The company has been on the verge of collapse for a month. What have you done, besides run around like a headless chicken? I'm not wasting any more of my youth on a man with no hope." She turned and grabbed her purse from the sofa. It was the one I bought for her birthday last month, using the last of my personal cash reserves. She didn't spare me another glance as she walked to the door. "Sophia." The word tore from my throat, laced with a desperation I didn't recognize. She paused, her hand on the doorknob, but she didn't turn around. "Don't call me again." The door opened and then slammed shut. The final, echoing bang sealed me off from the rest of the world. I stood frozen, the strength draining from my body until I collapsed back into my chair. The office was suffocatingly silent. All I could hear was the frantic pounding of my own heart and the first drops of rain beginning to tap against the window pane. So this is what it came to. All the vows and promises, shattered by the first brush with reality. I always thought I knew her better than anyone. I thought our love was unbreakable. It turns out I was just a fool. A bitter laugh escaped my lips, the sound hollow and pathetic in the empty room. My phone buzzed on the desk. A notification from our executive Slack channel. "CTO, Ethan, how much longer can we keep the servers online?" "Head of sales, Ethan, our biggest clients are demanding payment." They're talking about taking legal action. HR Director, Ethan, what do I tell the team about this month's paychecks? Each message was another twist of the knife. I closed my eyes and leaned my head back, a wave of exhaustion washing over me. My career and my love life, both wiped out on the same godforsaken day. I don't know how long I sat there before my phone rang. It was my assistant, Davison. Mr. Cole, are you all right? Ms. Miller, I'm fine. I cut him off, my voice a raw rasp. Proceed with the original plan. Sir, are you sure? In your state. Just do it. I hung up and tossed the phone aside. Yes, the original plan. This whole so-called bankruptcy was a charade, a play I had written and directed myself. My name is Ethan Cole. Publicly, I'm the founder of a buzzy Austin tech startup. Privately, I'm the sole heir to the Cole family dynasty, one of the wealthiest old money families on the East Coast. I'd grown tired of the gilded cage, of the sycophants who flocked to my last name, not to me. So I hid my identity and set out to build something of my own. My company grew fast, maybe too fast. I'd rattled the cages of some established players in the industry. Recently, a few of them had teamed up to squeeze me out. The company was in a tight spot, that much was true, but it was nothing I couldn't handle. A single phone call to my family's trust would have unleashed a billion-dollar war chest that could have wiped those corporate giants off the map. But I was tired of the fight. I just wanted to live a simpler life, let my trusted team handle the day-to-day, while I guided the bigger picture. I could have ended this crisis in an afternoon, but I had another idea. I wanted to see who would still be standing by my side when I had nothing left, especially Sophia. I wanted to use this as an opportunity to finally tell her the truth about my family, and then to ask her to marry me. The ring was already waiting. It was sitting in the top drawer of my desk. I had imagined 100 different ways she might react. She'd be shocked, maybe even angry that I had lied to her. But in the end, I was sure she would be touched by my reasons, that she would laugh and fall into my arms. I never, not in a million years, imagined this ending. I lost. I had gambled and lost everything. My test had yielded the one result I never wanted to see, the one answer I couldn't accept. I pulled open the drawer and took out the small velvet box. I flipped it open. The brilliant cut diamond inside glittered, cold and unforgiving in the dim light. I stared at it, a hot pressure building behind my eyes. The love I was so proud of, the love I had bet my entire world on, was nothing but a joke. Chapter 2, I don't know how I survived that night. I just sat in my office, motionless, as the city's lights blinked on and then, hours later, faded away. The rain fell, and then it stopped. When the first sliver of dawn cut through the blinds, I finally moved, my body stiff and cold. The bankruptcy notice on the desk, the cup of coffee Sophia had left behind, now cold as stone, and the engagement ring in my drawer. They were all artifacts from a nightmare that was all too real. I picked up my phone. Dozens of missed calls, over 100 unread texts. Executives, business partners, friends who were suddenly too busy to offer more than a text. The messages were all the same. A mix of feigned concern and a clear desire to distance themselves from a sinking ship. I scrolled and scrolled. The name I was looking for wasn't there. She was really gone. Without a backward glance, without a single word. The fire that I'd been smothering all night roared to life. Fina, just fine. You think I have nothing, Sophia? You think there's no future with me? I'm going to show you exactly what. And who? You threw away. I pushed myself to my feet and walked to the massive floor-to-ceiling window. Below, the morning traffic was already a steady stream. The city was awake. I dialed Davison's number. Mr. Cole. He answered, his voice tight with worry. I want a message sent to every firm that moved against us. Any commercial pressure they applied to my company will be returned to them tenfold. I said, my voice like ice. And get a press release ready. Ethan Cole has just secured a massive capital injection from a private equity group. The company isn't folding. We're expanding. Yes, sir. Davison's voice was electric with renewed energy. And the capital? $1 billion will be in the corporate account within the hour. $1 billion. He audibly gasped. Is that a problem? No, sir. I'm on it immediately. I hung up and stared at my reflection in the glass. Pale face, dark circles under my eyes, but a dangerous, wild flame burning within them. You want to see me get back on my feet, Sophia? I'll stand so tall I'll block out the sun. I will make you regret this. I will make you understand that what you did yesterday was the single biggest mistake of your life. Just then, my office door flew open. My best friend, Leo Martinez, stood there, panting, dragging a large, heavy-looking suitcase. His eyes locked on me and immediately turned red. Ethan, he rushed over, grabbing my arm and looking me up and down. Man, are you okay? I called you like 100 times. I thought you did something stupid. Seeing him there, sweating and genuinely terrified for me, a tiny part of the ice around my heart began to melt. I'm not going to do anything stupid, I said, clapping him on the shoulder. Are you kidding me? He gestured wildly at the messy office. The company's gone. And Sophia, she left you, man. I heard. The mention of her name made my expression freeze over again. Don't talk to me about her. Leo sighed, then heaved the suitcase onto the floor and unzipped it. It was packed to the brim with stacks of $100 bills. I stared. What is? It's $500,000, Leo said, his voice thick with emotion. It's everything I have. My parents' savings, the down payment for my house. Everything. I know it's a drop in the bucket compared to what you had, but it's a start. Take it. Pay the staff. Settle the worst of the debts. We'll figure out the rest. I looked from the case full of cash to my friend's earnest, worried face. His family was comfortable, but they were a world away from being wealthy. This money was his entire future. A warmth spread through my chest. At a time when everyone else was running for the hills, he was here, offering me everything he had. Take it, man. He saw me hesitating and shoved a thick stack of bills into my hands. We're brothers. Your fight is my fight. If we have to, we'll start over from scratch. With your brains, there's no way we'll starve. I looked at him, my eyes starting to burn. I didn't tell him it was all an act. I just watched him, a decision solidifying in my mind. Okay. I nodded, accepting the profound gesture. I'll consider it a loan. I'll pay you back 10 times over within a year. Don't be an idiot. Leo punched me lightly on the chest. There's no accounting between us. Just get your head back in the game. I smiled, but didn't say more. Some debts are recorded in the heart, not on paper. I picked up the suitcase and sat back down at my desk. You're just in time, I told Leo. I need you to do something for me. Anything. I'm starting a new investment firm. I want you to be my partner. Leo blinked. Now? With what? This $500,000. 500,000 is more than enough, I said, my gaze sharp with a certainty he'd never seen before. I'm going to show everyone who wrote me off how Ethan Cole rises from the ashes. Of course, I didn't tell him that in less than an hour, my new corporate account would have $1 billion in it. I just wanted him to see what a miracle his $500,000 could create. I was going to make damn sure Sophia saw it too. Chapter 3. In the months that followed, I became a machine. I used Leo's $500,000 as the seed money to register a new firm, Phoenix Capital. The real engine, of course, was the $1 billion I'd funneled from my family's trust. I broke the sum down into countless smaller amounts, routing them through a complex web of shell corporations and offshore accounts, making them appear as investments from various angel investors. To the outside world, I was a genius who had somehow won the backing of the entire venture capital community. Within a month, Phoenix Capital was the most talked about name on Wall Street. I moved with brutal efficiency, making surgically precise investments in several overlooked startups with massive future potential. At the same time, I began a campaign of systematic revenge against the corporate giants who had tried to bury me. Using my massive capital reserves and insider information, I shorted their stocks, poached their top talent, and launched hostile takeovers of their core assets. The market is a battlefield, and I was its most ruthless general. In less than 3 months, the empires that had once seemed untouchable began to crumble. One by one, they fell. And I, Ethan Cole, rose from their ashes to claim a new throne. Phoenix Capital became the stuff of legend, and I was its king, the man who had been reborn in fire, stronger than ever. The world came rushing back to me. Flowers, accolades, invitations. Women, models, heiresses, actresses, all circled like sharks, sensing blood in the water. The most persistent of them was my one-time fiancée, Victoria Davenport. The Davenports and the Coles were old money allies, and our families had arranged our engagement when we were children. After I'd left to start my own company, she had publicly stated more than once that she found my little project embarrassing, a waste of the Cole family's prestige. Our engagement had been unofficially dead for years. Now, she was a regular fixture in my office reception. "Ethan, darling, you've truly managed to impress me." Victoria sat across from me, impeccably dressed in a Chanel suit, swirling a glass of Cabernet. Her usually icy face held a look of calculated appreciation. "I never thought you could actually pull this off on your own. A real comeback story." I leaned back in my leather chair, my face unreadable. On my own? She, like everyone else, believed I was being propped up by some mysterious consortium of investors. No one knew my real secret. "What do you want, Victoria?" I had no time for games. "Can I just stop by to see how you are?" She set her glass down, leaning forward slightly, her eyes glinting. "We are still engaged, after all." "Engaged?" I let out a short, harsh laugh. I seemed to recall someone saying her husband had to be a titan of industry, not some small-time founder playing in a sandbox. A flicker of anger crossed her face before she smoothed it away. "That was then. The man you are now is certainly worthy of being my husband." "Unfortunately," I said, standing and walking around the desk to look down on her, "I have no interest in you. I appreciated beauty, but I despised women who treated love and marriage like a corporate merger." She had never been interested in Ethan Cole. She was only ever interested in the value attached to my name. In that, she and Sophia were strangely similar. The thought of Sophia was a familiar sting. For months, I had consciously pushed her out of my mind, refusing to ask about her or seek out any news. I buried myself in work, convinced that if I climbed high enough, I could forget she ever existed. But I couldn't. In the dead of night, when the exhaustion finally set in, her face would appear in my mind's eye. Her smile, her tears, the way she used to curl up against me, and the cold, hard set of her back as she walked out of my life. Love and hate were tangled together, a suffocating net I couldn't escape. Victoria, rejected so bluntly, looked incensed. "Ethan, don't be a fool. An alliance between our families would be a massive boon for you, for Phoenix Capital." "My company doesn't need a marriage alliance to succeed," I said coldly. "Please leave, Victoria. I'm Busse." Her face flushed with anger and embarrassment. She finally stood, her heels clicking sharply on the marble floor as she stormed out. The office was quiet again. I walked to the window, looking down at the glittering tapestry of the city at night. It was all mine for the taking. Wealth, power, prestige. I had it all. So why did I feel so empty? On impulse, I picked up my phone and opened a long-neglected photo album. It was filled with pictures of me and Sophia. The first one was from a welcome week event our freshman year of college. She was on stage in a simple white dress, playing the piano, looking like an angel. I was in the audience, completely captivated. The last one was from our company's last Christmas party. I'd had too much to drink and was leaning on her shoulder. She had her arm around me, a look of fond exasperation on her face. I swiped through the photos one by one, each image a fresh cut on my heart. I snapped the phone shut and threw it on the couch. "Get a grip, Cole. She's a woman who left you for money. What's there to miss?" I forced my attention back to my work, but a knock at the door interrupted me. It was Davison. "Mr. Cole," he said, placing a manila folder gently on my desk. "This is the information you requested on Ms. Miller's recent activities." My hand froze. It was true. My resolve had crumbled. I had asked Davison to find out what had happened to her. I told myself I just wanted to see if she was living the high life she'd supposedly left me for. I told myself I just wanted to know if she ever regretted it. I took a deep breath, and with a hand that wasn't quite steady, I opened the folder. Inside were a few printed photos and a one-page summary. I picked up the first picture. Sophia was wearing a cheap, ill-fitting waitress uniform, taking an order from a customer. She had lost weight. Her cheekbones were sharp, making her eyes seem huge in her pale face. She wore a practiced, professional smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. They were hollow. My fingers tightened on the edge of the photo. The second picture was taken from behind the counter of a 24-hour convenience store. She was wearing a blue employee vest, head down as she scanned a customer's items. The timestamp on the photo was 2:17 a.m. She looked exhausted, The dark circles under her eyes stark and deep. The third, the fourth. She was working at a fast food joint, handing out flyers on a street corner, asleep on the late-night subway, her head resting against the vibrating window. Each photo was a stake through my heart. I had assumed she'd left me for someone richer, that she was living in a luxury penthouse somewhere. So why was she living like this? Why was she running herself into the ground? I picked up the typed report and read. It said that after breaking up with me, Sophia had moved out of our apartment. She hadn't gone to friends or family. Instead, she'd rented a small, single room in an old, run-down building in a rough part of town. She hadn't looked for a new career. Instead, she was working multiple low-wage jobs at once. Waitress, cashier, delivery driver. Her days started before sunrise and ended long after midnight. At the bottom of the report was a copy of her bank statement. There was one recurring, significant withdrawal each month. The recipient was a name I didn't recognize, Laura Miller. A knot of dread tightened in my stomach. This recipient, did you look into her? I asked Davison, who was still standing silently by the door. Yes, sir. His expression was grim. Laura Miller is. She's Sophia's mother. She was diagnosed with end-stage renal disease 3 years ago. She requires constant dialysis, and the medical bills are astronomical. My mind went blank. Sophia's mother was sick? How'd I not know? We were together for years, and she never once mentioned it. I knew her father had passed away when she was young, and that her mother had raised her alone. Every time I'd asked about her mom, she'd just said, "She's fine, everything's good." I'd offered to visit countless times, but she always had an excuse. I had thought her mother just didn't approve of me. Now I understood. She wasn't trying to keep me away. She was trying to protect me from her family's hardship, from the crushing weight of that burden. That beautiful, stubborn fool. Why didn't she just tell me? If I had known, I never would have let her face it alone. I shot to my feet, grabbing my car keys from the desk. Sir, Davison called after me. Where are you going? To find her. I didn't know what I was feeling. Rage, heartbreak, guilt. A toxic cocktail of emotions threatened to drown me. I was furious with her for hiding it. My heart ached for all the suffering she'd endured alone. And most of all, I despised myself for my own arrogant stupidity. I thought I had orchestrated a brilliant test of character. It turned out I was just a clown in my own cruel circus. I drove through the city, hunting for her. Following the addresses in the report, I went to the diner first. Excuse me, is Sophia working? Sophie? Nah, her shift just ended. I think she picked up some hours at the convenience store across the street. I raced across the street. Sophia? She left about half an hour ago. Said she had to hand out flyers downtown. I followed the trail of clues like a madman, chasing her ghost through the city. Finally, at a busy intersection downtown, I saw her. She was wearing a thin jacket, shivering in the cold autumn wind, trying to hand promotional flyers to passing pedestrians. Most people waved her away, annoyed. One man knocked the papers from her hand. She just bent down, her movements weary, and silently picked them up before turning to the next person with that same tired, empty smile. I pulled the car over and just watched her. I watched the wind whip her hair across her face, watch her chapped, reddened fingers struggle with the papers, watch the light in her once brilliant eyes fade into numb exhaustion. My heart felt like it was being squeezed in a vice. The pain was physical, unbearable. This was the woman I had promised to protect, the woman I had put on a pedestal. Now she was here, being ground into dust by life, all while I sat on my throne of lies, cursing her name. I was a monster. I threw the car door open, ready to run to her, to wrap her in my arms and never let go. But my feet felt like they were encased in lead. What right did I have? When she needed me most, I wasn't there. While she was silently enduring hell, I was basking in my success, entertaining other women, and hating her for a crime she never committed. How could I possibly face her? How could I explain? As I stood there, paralyzed by indecision, a group of street thugs surrounded her. Hey, little lady, all alone out here? Why don't you come have a drink with us? The leader, a guy with bleach blonde hair, said with a greasy smile, reaching out to touch her face. Sophia flinched back, her face pale with fear. Please, leave me alone. Ooh, feisty, the man sneered. I like that. He grabbed for her arm. Something inside my head snapped. I was moving before I even realized it. Get your filthy hands off her. I caught the man's wrist in a grip of iron, my eyes burning with a cold fury he wasn't prepared for. The blonde thug was stunned, not expecting anyone to intervene. His eyes darted from my expensive suit to the Patek Philippe on my wrist, and a flicker of fear crossed his face. But with his friends backing him up, his bravado returned. Who the hell are you? This ain't your business, he snarled, trying to pull his arm away. My grip was like a steel trap. I'll say it one more time. Let her go, I said, my voice dangerously low. Or what? One of his friends jeered. You know who we are? This is our turf. Get lost before you get hurt. I was done talking. With a slight twist of my wrist, a sickening crack echoed in the cold air. Ark! The man screamed and dropped to his knees, cradling his hand, which now bent at an unnatural angle. My hand! You broke my damn hand, he howled, sweat beading on his forehead. The other thugs froze, their jaws slack. They hadn't expected the guy in the designer suit to be capable of such casual violence. You hit him, one of them stammered, pointing a shaky finger at me. Get him, guys. They charged, a clumsy, uncoordinated attack. I pushed a terrified Sophia behind me and met them head-on. I've trained in Krav Maga for years. These pathetic, out-of-shape wannabe gangsters were no match. In less than a minute, they were all on the ground, groaning. I brushed off my hands and walked over to the one who had spoken. He scrambled backward, his face a mask of terror. Mom, I'm sorry. We were just messing around. We didn't know she was with you. I crouched down, a thin smile on my face. I don't like complications. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number. Commissioner Evans? Ethan Cole here. I'm on the corner of 6th and Congress. There's been a public disturbance. I'd appreciate it if you could send a unit to clean it up. The voice on the other end was instantly deferential. Mr. Cole, right away. I'll send my best men. Consider it handled. I hung up and looked at the terrified thug. You could go now. What? He stared, uncomprehending. Get out of my sight. Scrambling to their feet, they helped their screaming friend and practically fell over each other to get away, disappearing into the night. They wouldn't be coming back. Only when they were gone did I turn to Sophia. She was standing right where I'd left her, staring at me. Her eyes were wide with a mixture of shock, confusion, and something else I couldn't decipher. You? She started, her voice barely a whisper. Are you okay? I asked, my own voice softening as I stepped toward her. She shook her head, then her gaze fell to my hand. During the scuffle, I'd scraped my knuckles. A thin line of blood was welling up. You're hurt, she said quietly. It's nothing. I looked at her, 1,000 words caught in my throat, but none would come out. I'm sorry. Why didn't you tell me? How have you been? They all seemed so meaningless, so inadequate, when I looked in her tired, guarded eyes. The silence stretched between us, thick and awkward. Thank you, she said finally, breaking the tension. Her tone was polite, distant, the way you'd thank a stranger. Another sharp pain lanced through my chest. What are you doing here? She asked. I was just passing by, I lied. I couldn't tell her I'd been looking for her, that I'd been watching her. She would see it as pity, and her pride would never stand for that. Oh, she nodded, then bent down and began to pick up the scattered, trampled flyers. I watched her crouch on the dirty sidewalk, gathering the scraps of paper, and my heart broke all over again. Leave them, I said, grabbing her wrist. Let me take you home. Her hand was ice cold. She flinched at my touch, pulling her arm back as if she'd been burned. No, that's okay. I can get home myself, she said, avoiding my eyes. Sophia, I said, my voice sharper than I intended. It's late. It's not safe for you to be out here alone. She hesitated for a long moment before finally giving a small, reluctant nod. The drive was silent. She sat in the passenger seat, turned away from me, watching the city lights blur past. I could feel the invisible wall between us, thick and impenetrable. I pulled up in front of the rundown apartment building from the report. This is me. Thanks for the ride, she said, unbuckling her seatbelt. Sophia, I said, stopping her. She turned to look at me, her expression unreadable. I couldn't hold it in any longer. Why didn't you tell me? Tell you what? She asked, her voice perfectly level, as if she had no idea what I was talking about. Your mother's illness. The words exploded out of me. Why didn't you ever tell me? What do you take me for? My accusation finally broke through her composure. Her carefully constructed mask cracked. Her eyes filled with tears, her lower lip trembling. But she bit down on it, refusing to let them fall. "What good would it have done?" she asked, her voice shaking with a despair I'd never heard from her before. "To tell you, and have you carry that weight with me? Ethan, your company was already sinking. I couldn't add my problems to your own. So you broke up with me instead?" I stared at her, the pain in my chest suffocating. "You chose to carry all of this, completely alone? You couldn't trust me, even that much?" "I do trust you," she said, and then a broken, heartbreaking smile crossed her face. "I trust you more than anyone. I knew you weren't the kind of man who would stay down for long. I knew you would get back on your feet. Then why did you leave me?" "Because." She took a deep, shuddering breath, her gaze locking with mine. Her next words shattered my universe. "Because I love you, you idiot." Chapter 6, "Because I love you, you idiot." The words detonated in my mind. I froze, staring at her, unable to process what I had just heard. She loved me? What? What did you say? I stammered, my voice shaking. Sophia looked at my stunned face, and the tears she had been fighting finally broke free, streaming down her cheeks. She didn't wipe them away. "The day we broke up," she choked out, "you must have thought I was the most heartless, materialistic woman alive, didn't you?" I couldn't speak. My silence was its own confession. "I know. That's what I wanted you to think," she said with a bitter smile. "You're too proud, Ethan. Your pride won't let you accept failure. I knew if I didn't say those things, if I didn't give you a reason to hate me, you would have wallowed in the heartbreak. Instead, you used that anger to fuel your comeback." I opened my mouth, but my throat was closed tight. I couldn't form a single word. It was all for me. Every cruel word, every jab at my pride, it was all an act. Her cold, final departure was a shield, hiding a love so deep and a sacrifice so profound I couldn't even comprehend it. And your mother's illness. My mom's treatment costs a fortune. I couldn't let you go to your family, hat in hand, for my sake. I couldn't let you give up on your dream because of my burden, she said, her eyes full of a pain that mirrored my own. So, I had to find my own way to fix things. Your own way? A horrifying realization began to dawn on me, a cold dread washing over me. The $500,000 Leo gave me. Sophia's body tensed almost imperceptibly. She didn't have to answer. Her silence was the answer. The world tilted on its axis. It wasn't Leo's money. It was never his money. It was hers. She had sold her condo, her car, every valuable thing she owned to give me the capital to start again. When I had nothing, she gave me everything. And I, like the world's biggest fool, thought she had left me because I was poor. I had spent an entire year hating her for a betrayal she never committed. I had strutted around, basking in the glory of my comeback, believing I was the master of my own destiny. I wasn't the king. I was the court jester, the only one who didn't know the real story. "Why didn't you tell me?" I roared, the sound raw with a year's worth of misplaced anger and a sudden, crushing wave of guilt. "Why did you carry it all by yourself? Do you have any idea what this last year has been like for me? I hated you. I spent every single day thinking about how I would make you regret leaving me. I couldn't go on." I slammed my fist into the steering wheel. The horn blared, a piercing, ugly sound in the quiet night. Dropping my forehead to the wheel, I felt my shoulders begin to shake uncontrollably. I wept, a grown man, brought to his knees by the truth, crying like a lost child. I couldn't bear to think of what her life had been like. Not only was she grieving the loss of our relationship, but she was also working herself to the bone to pay off an impossible debt. And where was I? Living in a penthouse, driving a sports car, soaking in the world applause. And in my heart, I was cursing her. I was worthless. A cool, gentle hand covered mine. It was Sophia's. "Don't, Ethan," she whispered, her voice thick with her own tears. "It's all in the past now." I shot up, grabbing her hand and pulling her into a desperate, crushing embrace. "I'm sorry." "I'm so sorry, Sophia. I'm sorry." It was all I could say, the words repeated over and over, a pathetic mantra of my regret. No apology would ever be enough. She was stiff in my arms at first, but she didn't push me away. After a long moment, she slowly began to pat my back. "I never blamed you." Her forgiveness only made it worse. I held her tighter, as if I could physically merge our bodies and undo the damage I'd done. "Come home with me," I said, my voice raw but resolute, looking deep in her eyes. "From now on, let me take care of you." Chapter 7. Sophia didn't answer right away. She just watched me, her gaze a whirlwind of emotions. I knew a year of pain and misunderstanding couldn't be erased with a single apology. The wound I'd left on her heart would take a lifetime to heal. "I'll walk you up," I said softly, releasing my grip and gently brushing a stray strand of hair from her face. I helped her out of the car and walked her to the entrance of the dilapidated building. The stairwell light was broken, plunging the hall into darkness. I took out my phone, its flashlight cutting a path through the gloom. At her apartment door, I stopped. "I'll be back to pick you up in the morning." She gave a slight nod, unlocked the door, and slipped inside. The heavy metal door clicked shut, leaving me alone in the dark hallway. My heart felt as empty as the space in front of me. I stood there for a long time, only leaving after I saw the light in her window flick on. Back in my vast, sterile penthouse, the place felt less like a home and more like a gilded prison. I called Leo. It rang for a long time before he picked up, his voice thick with sleep and alcohol. "Achelo." "It's me. Ethan." "Ethan? Man, it's late." "What's up?" "I'm downstairs." "Get down here." I hung up and leaned against my car, lighting a cigarette. A few minutes later, Leo stumbled out of his building, wrapped in a bathrobe. "What's going on? Is everything okay?" he asked, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. I didn't say a word. I just walked up to him and punched him in the face. He staggered back, shock and pain bringing him instantly awake. "Ethan, what the hell is wrong with you?" he yelled, holding his jaw. "What's wrong with me?" I grabbed the front of his robe, my eyes blazing. "You're the one who's lost his mind. Why did you help her lie to me?" "Why?" Leo looked away, his guilt obvious. I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't you?" I sneered. "The 500 grand. It was from Sophia, wasn't it? She sold everything she had and gave you the money to bring to me. Am I wrong?" The color drained from Leo's face. How did you find out?" "How did I find out?" I shoved him away. If I had found out one day later, it might have been too late. I could have lost her forever. I told him everything that had happened, every detail of Sophia's sacrifice. When I finished, Leo was silent for a long time. Finally, he collapsed onto the curb, burying his head in his hands. "I'm sorry, Ethan," he said, his voice filled with regret. "Sophia begged me. She said it was the only way. She knew your pride wouldn't let you rest until you'd rebuilt everything. She said she couldn't be the reason you failed." "The reason I failed?" I laughed, but the sound was broken. "She's the love of my life. How could she ever be a failure?" I know I messed up," Leo said, tugging at his hair in frustration. "This whole year, watching you hate her, knowing how much she was suffering, it ate me alive. I wanted to tell you so many times, but I promised her I wouldn't." Seeing his genuine remorse, my anger began to subside. He was just trying to be a good friend, caught in an impossible situation. The only real villain in this story was me. "It's not your fault," I said, walking over and placing a hand on his shoulder. "I was the fool. So what are you going to do now?" Leo asked, looking up at me. "Win her back," I said, my voice filled with a new, unshakable purpose. "Whatever it takes." The next morning, I was up before dawn. I made a breakfast fit for a queen, packed it carefully, and drove to Sophia's apartment. I didn't want to crowd her, so I just hung the insulated bag on her doorknob and sent her a text. "Breakfast is at your door. Please eat." I parked down the street, in a spot where I could see her leave without being seen. I watched as she opened her door, hesitated, then picked up the bag and walked toward the subway. A small, hopeful warmth spread through my chest. For the next few weeks, I became her shadow. I learned her entire grueling schedule. When she went to her waitressing job, I'd book out the entire restaurant for a private event, making myself her only customer. When she worked the late shift at the convenience store, I'd come in and buy everything on the shelves so she could close up early. When she was supposed to hand out flyers, I'd hire a team to take every last one before she even arrived. I used my money and influence in a clumsy, transparent attempt to lighten her load. She was smart. It didn't take her long to figure out what was going on. She called me, her voice a mix of frustration and resignation. "Ethan, what are you doing?" "I'm trying to win you back." I answered without a hint of shame. Silence on the other end. Please, stop doing these things, she said. I don't need it. Yes, you do, I insisted. Sophia, I was an idiot. I failed to take care of you. Please, just give me a chance to make it up to you. Let me fix this. She didn't answer, but she didn't hang up either. I knew her resolve was starting to crack. But there was one more thing I had to do. I pulled every string I had, contacted the top nephrologists in the country, and arranged a new, cutting-edge treatment plan for her mother. I also anonymously endowed a multi-million-dollar charitable foundation at the hospital, specifically for patients suffering from renal disease, ensuring that no one would have to choose between their life and their savings. I didn't tell Sophia about any of it. I just wanted to quietly remove every single obstacle that stood in the way of her happiness. Chapter 8, My Pursuit of Sophia, became the talk of the town. The story spread through the city's elite circles. Ethan Cole, the ruthless president of Phoenix Capital, was obsessed with a waitress from the wrong side of the tracks. People laughed behind my back, saying I was cheapening myself, tarnishing my reputation. Victoria Davenport, of course, was the most incensed. She stormed into my office and slammed a gossip magazine down on my desk. On the cover was a paparazzi photo of me, kneeling to wipe a smudge off Sophia's shoe outside the diner. Ethan, have you lost your mind? She shrieked, her face contorted with rage. You're humiliating yourself. You're humiliating my family and yours. I glanced up at her, my expression cold. What I do is my business. It has nothing to do with you, or the Coles, or the Davenports. We have an engagement. Let me make myself perfectly clear for the last time, I said, rising to my full height and looming over her. You and I are nothing to each other. The only woman I have ever loved, or will ever love, is Sophia. What's so special about her? Victoria cried, her voice cracking. She's just some gold digger who dumped you the second you were broke. Shut up, I roared, my voice bouncing off the walls. You are not worthy of even speaking her name. You have no idea what she's done for me. Looking at her face, twisted by jealousy and spite, I suddenly saw a pathetic reflection of the man I used to be, someone who measured love in dollars and status. She would never understand a love as pure and selfless as Sophia's. Victoria, this is your final warning. I pointed to the door. Stay out of my life, and more importantly, stay away from Sophia. If you don't, I will have no problem making the Davenport fortune the next casualty of my expansion. My threat landed like a punch. The color drained from her face. She looked at me with a new expression, fear. She knew I meant every word. She left without another word, and I knew she would never bother me again. With that distraction gone, I focused all my energy on Sophia. I sent her flowers, I had her favorite foods delivered, I sent her books by authors she loved. I was like a teenager with his first crush, using every trick I could think of to win her over, to bring the light back to her eyes. Slowly, her resistance melted away, replaced by a weary acceptance, and then, finally, a quiet warmth. I knew I was close. On her birthday, I secretly decorated her tiny, cramped apartment. I filled it with pink balloons, soft, warm lights, and hundreds of white roses, her favorite. I cooked all of her favorite dishes, a feast covering every surface. When she came home from work and opened the door, she froze, speechless. I walked out from the small kitchen, holding a birthday cake lit with candles. Happy birthday, Sophie. I sang to her as I walked closer. Her eyes immediately filled with tears. Make a wish, I said, holding the cake out to her. She closed her eyes, her hands clasped together, and made a silent wish. In the soft candlelight, she was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. After she blew out the candles, I reached into my pocket and pulled out the velvet box I had been holding onto for more than a year. I dropped to one knee and opened it. The diamond caught the light, scattering brilliant sparks across the room. Sophie, I said, my voice trembling with nerves. I know no amount of words can ever undo the hurt I caused you, but I need you to believe me when I say this. For the rest of my life, I will live only for you. I will spend every day loving you, protecting you, and making you the happiest woman in the world. So, will you please give me a second chance? Will you marry me? Sophia's hands flew to her mouth, sobs shaking her entire body. She looked from my face to the ring, tears streaming down her cheeks. I waited, my heart hammering against my ribs. The world seemed to stop spinning. Finally, after an eternity, she nodded, a broken, beautiful smile spreading across her face as she held out her hand. Yes. Overjoyed, I took her hand, my own trembling as I slid the ring, a year late, onto her finger. It was a perfect fit. I stood up and pulled her into my arms, holding her so tightly I wished I could fuse us together. Thank you, Sophie. I whispered into her hair, my voice thick with emotion. Thank you for still loving me. Thank you for giving me another chance. She just squeezed me tighter, her tears soaking my shirt. We were back together. The very next day, I took her to City Hall. We walked out an hour later with a marriage certificate, the paper warm in my hand. I couldn't stop grinning like an idiot. Sophia looked at me, a real, radiant smile finally gracing her lips. She stood on her toes and gave me a soft kiss on the cheek. Hello, Mr. Cole. Hello, Mrs. Cole. I answered, capturing her hand in mine and lacing our fingers together. In the bright sunlight, our matching wedding bands gleamed. My first act as her husband was to have her mother transferred to the best private hospital in the state. I assembled a team of the country's top specialists, ensuring she had access to the best medicine and technology available. Sophia stood by her mother's bedside, watching her sleep peacefully, her color already looking better. Her eyes welled up again. Ethan, thank you. Hey, I said, wrapping my arms around her from behind. We're a family now. Your mom is my mom. No thanks are necessary. With her mother settled and cared for, I started planning our wedding. I was going to give her the most spectacular, magical wedding the world had ever seen. I wanted everyone to know that Sophia Miller was the woman I would spend my life adoring. I booked a private, breathtakingly beautiful estate in Napa Valley for the ceremony. I flew in everyone who mattered, titans of industry, political figures, the true global elite. I wanted the whole world to witness our happiness. On the day of the wedding, Sophia wore a custom-designed gown that made her look like she had stepped out of a dream. As she walked down the aisle toward me, the California sun catching the diamonds in her hair, I knew I was the luckiest man alive. Under a canopy of white roses, with everyone watching, we exchanged our vows and sealed them with a kiss. In the front row, Leo was crying harder than I was. In a far corner, I spotted Victoria. She watched us with an expression of deep regret, but it didn't matter. None of it mattered anymore. My world began and ended with the woman in my arms. After the wedding, we embarked on a whirlwind honeymoon across the globe. We watched the Eiffel Tower sparkle at midnight. We saw the sunset over the Aegean Sea in Santorini. We had dinner surrounded by sharks in an undersea restaurant in the Maldives. I did everything in my power to make up for the year of pain. I spoiled her, pampered her, and treated her like the queen she was. My Instagram, once a ghost town, became a running diary of our lives. Hashtag Mr. Cole is whipped hashtag another private island for the Mrs. Hashtag he planted a field of roses for her. My feed became a source of daily relationship goals for the entire internet. The comments went from shock to envy to a kind of resigned acceptance. Daily reminder that I'm single and poor. Check Ethan Cole's Instagram. This is the kind of love that makes me believe in fairy tales. I'm not crying, you are. What did Mrs. Cole do in a past life to deserve this? Slay a dragon. I would always laugh and show the comments to Sophia. See, Mrs. Cole, the whole world is jealous of you. She would roll her eyes, but she couldn't hide the smile as she snuggled closer. That's because they don't know how ridiculous you are. It was true. To the world, I was a ruthless CEO, but to her, I was just a man who loved to make her laugh, who got jealous if other men looked at her for too long, and who lived for the simple joy of making her happy. I had her. My life was finally complete. Chapter 10. After our honeymoon, life settled into a beautiful, sweet rhythm. I stopped being a workaholic. I learned to delegate, entrusting the company I had built to my capable team. My new priority was getting home on time every day to cook dinner for my wife. I loved watching her face light up as she ate, her genuine enjoyment, the highest praise I could ever receive. You're the best cook in the world, she'd say, planting a kiss on my cheek. In those moments, I knew that no billion-dollar deal could ever feel as valuable as that. We adopted a golden retriever we named Midas and a ragdoll cat we named Fortune. The two of them were inseparable, a furry reflection of our own happiness. On weekends, we'd take Midas hiking in the hill country or cuddle up on the couch with Fortune and watch an old movie. Our life was simple, and it was perfect. Sophia chose not to be a stay-at-home wife. With my full support, she started her own charitable foundation, the Laura Miller Fund, dedicated to helping families struggling with medical debt and providing scholarships for underprivileged students. She was busy, fulfilled, and the brilliant light was back in her eyes. That was the Sophia I had first fallen in love with, confident, kind, and absolutely radiant. Occasionally, I would convince her to attend a gala or a business dinner with me. She would invariably steal the show, her natural grace and sharp wit charming everyone she met. I'd watch other men stare at her with admiration, and I'd instinctively pull her closer, staking my claim with a possessive kiss that always made her laugh and lightly smack my arm. "You're such a child," she'd whisper. But I knew she loved it. A year later, thanks to the incredible care she received, Sophia's mother made a miraculous recovery. She still needed regular checkups, but she was healthy and vibrant. We moved her into a beautiful guest house on our property, and our little family felt complete. And then, a year after that, Sophia got pregnant. The moment she told me, I picked her up and spun her around the room, hollering with a joy so pure it felt like my heart would burst. From that day on, I became a full-time professional husband. Work? It could wait. Meetings? Reschedule them. Nothing in the world was more important than my wife and the tiny life she was carrying. 9 months later, Sophia gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. She looked just like her mother, with the same bright, sparkling eyes. We named her Annabelle Sophie Cole. Sophie, after the love of my life. I was officially a goner. My new favorite pastime was holding my tiny daughter, singing her off-key lullabies, and mastering the art of the diaper change. Sophia would watch my clumsy attempts, her laughter echoing through the nursery. "What happened to the ruthless CEO?" she'd tease. I'd walk over with Annabelle in my arms and kiss them both. "He retired. Now you've got a ruthless husband and a ruthless daddy." I looked at the two most important women in my life, my wife and my daughter, smiling at me. My heart was so full I thought it might overflow. I used to think success meant conquering the world. Now I knew that true success was having a home to come back to, a wife who loved me, and a beautiful child to protect. It was a quiet, unshakable happiness. Outside, the sun was shining. I looked at Sophia, and she was already looking at me. We smiled, a universe of love passing between us without a single word. Our story was just beginning.